So I would like to say welcome to everybody. Welcome to this Bible memory training webinar. Some of you are very advanced. Jared is on this webinar, and he is very advanced. Jared has memorized at least the first 500 chapters of the Bible, the theme of every chapter. I'm not going to test you on this, Jared. Don't worry, because I have no way to test you on it. But I could say, Jared, what's in Exodus chapter 20? And he could say the Ten Commandments. Or I could say, Jared, what is in Exodus chapter 12? And he would be like, oh, that's the story of Passover. Or Genesis chapter 37. And he would say, oh, that's the story of Joseph. Guys, that is phenomenal. And it's something that Jared is humble about, but it's amazing at what you can do with your memory when you set your mind to it. So here is what we're going to do in this webinar. Well, here, let me see if I'm going to share a poll if I can. I created a poll. Let's see if I can share this. Can you guys see the poll there? The poll, it should be, how many verses do you think you could memorize in a year? Do you think you could do 10, 20, 50, 100, or 500 if you really had to put your mind to it? And the next question is why do you want to do Bible memory? Do you want it to do it to deepen your faith as a source of strength, sharing your testimony? Okay, one person answered there. One person said to deepen your faith. Great. I love that. Y'all, that function is working. I got one thing right. I got something right for this webinar. Um, so a lot of you are just wanting to deepen your faith. Some of you believe Bible memory would be a source of strength. I think it would. Bible memory can deepen your faith, and here's how. As you're memorizing the Bible, and imagine you're getting a layout of the Bible. You know what happened in this chapter of the Bible. And then later on, you memorize what happened in this chapter of the Bible. And you see how they're linked together. You see how that prophecy was fulfilled. Imagine if you had a mental database of being able to see where the prophecies are fulfilled and how they're connected, or how this fits with that. When you can learn the Bible and have it in your brain, yeah, in this day and age, we can Google, we can have the answers on our phone, or we can look it up. But when you're having to Google search something, or when you're having to look up something, it's not the same. You don't get that same feeling of as the Bible would say, written on the tablet of your heart. When it's written on the tablet of your heart and you know it, then when you see these prophecies and how they're fulfilled and how they're tied together, that does deepen your faith, because the Bible is not just 66 books to you. It's something that fits together and is interwoven. So I do believe it can deepen your faith. The next one is source of strength. 17% of you answered that. It can be a source of strength. Imagine you're going through a really difficult time, and we all go through difficult times, and you have that source of strength, that scripture to close your eyes, and you repeat a Psalms to yourself, and it just gives you a source of strength, a source of hope. A lot of you here are saying sharing your testimony. I know that Jared on Saturday mornings, he gets out and he goes and he shares his testimony in essence. And when people ask you questions and you're able to take them directly to the Bible and share with confidence, that can be a boost of confidence. Oftentimes people don't share because they just don't have the confidence. This can be a confidence booster. And then one of you just love the challenge, and I love challenges too. That's a big part of it for me. I asked you, how many verses do you think you could memorize in a year? Some of you said 25% of you said 20 verses. 25% of you said 50 verses. Uh, some of you are changing. Oh, we got some more responses there. About 25% of you said 100 verses, and a few of you have believe in yourself that you could do 500 verses in a year. I want to say to you that all of those are possible. All of those are possible. You could memorize 500 verses in a year. I know that. I know that for a fact that you could do that. But let's just step it back a little bit from that. You could do 500 in a year. That's 10 verses a week. It's a little bit more than one a day, one and a half a day. I know you could do that. But let's step it back. What if you could just do 50 a year? Know the location, not the locations. There's two types of Bible memory. The first type of Bible memory is where you know the location of the story. Luke chapter 1, the story of John the Baptist. Exodus chapter 20, the story of the Ten Commandments. Genesis chapter 37, the story of Joseph. You know the location. That's the first type of Bible memory. The second type of Bible memory is actually word for word Bible memory, where you can quote an entire verse word for word. I will say this. Clearly, it is easier to memorize the location of a story, Luke chapter 1, John the Baptist. It's easier to do that because you don't have to get all the words perfect, and you just have to memorize the theme of it, and you can put it in your own words. Clearly, that is easier. But that's also very valuable because you get an outline of the Bible in your brain. The second type of Bible memory, where you memorize something word for word, I think you could do 550. I think you could do 500 of those a year, believe it or not. That's one and a half a day. But let's take a step back because nobody's going to believe me that you could do that. So let's take it a step back and make it a realistic goal here. Let's make it a realistic goal of 50 a year. 50 of your favorite verses or the most important verses to you. Proverbs 3:7 is one of my favorite verses. Do not be wise in your own eyes, but fear the Lord and shun evil. That's one of my favorite verses. I just love it. I've loved it since I was 20 years old. It just reminded me, hey, Ron, don't be too wise in your own eyes. All right, man? Stay humble, okay? And I love that one. Whatever the verses are important to you, memorize them word for word. So in this little short webinar here, this is what I'm going to do. I am going to teach you the basics of memory, the basics of how to memorize anything. And then I'm going to apply the basics of memory to two different aspects of Bible memory. The first aspect is memorizing the locations of stories. The second aspect is we're going to take one or two verses here and memorize them word for word. So I'm going to show you how to do both types of Bible memory. But before I show you that, we have to learn the basics of Bible memory. Let me look at the attendees here real quick. Christina is here. Christina, it's so great to see you. And I can't actually see you. This is a webinar format. It's not a meeting format, so I can't see your faces. But we're just doing this because we open this up to the public, but in the future, don't worry. In our private club group, we're still going to do the meetings where I can see all of your faces. And Christina, you're going to get a great review here on this. I see a lot of new people. Jared Edmonds, I'm great to see you here. Mark Meadows is here. Mark, same thing. I'm happy to see you. I'm so glad you're in our group, and I apologize that I can't see y'all's faces today, but we're opening this up to everybody. And what I mean by everybody is, guys, I have a Bible memory group, and we meet. And when we meet, I can see all their faces. But I wanted to open this up to everybody. So let me share my screen here, and I want to do a little bit of Bible memory training here. So here, I'm going to skip up to the top of this. I teach a memory system, and it's known as Black Belt Memory. It's, that's my product, Black Belt Memory, and it teaches you how to memorize anything. The 5 steps to my Black Belt memory process are focus, file, picture, action, review. These are the 5 keys to remembering anything. I mean, if you want to remember a name and a face, if you want to give speeches without notes, if you want to memorize chapters of books, if you want to remember what you read, if you want to memorize Bible verses, you follow the 5 steps and you can do it. The first step is focus. Let's be honest. If you just felt terrible, you ate a bunch of junk, and you took a bunch of NyQuil to go to sleep. Now, if you're sick and you got to take NyQuil, that's fine. But you know what I'm saying. You're going to wake up next day and your head is cloudy. Focus a lot has to do with good nutrition and exercise. I'm going to tell you guys this right now. Drink more water. Drink more water. A dehydrated brain can't focus. Most people are chronically dehydrated. If you're getting a lot of brain fog and you can't focus, how well are you going to do at Bible memory? probably not so well. Believe it or not, drinking water and going for walks, staying hydrated, staying watching what you eat. I take an omega-3 pill every day, and I try to drink 100 ounces of water a day. Now, you guys don't have to drink 100 ounces because you don't weigh 200 pounds like me. I got a little extra weight there. I need to go for some more walks, but drink plenty of water. Keep a hydrated brain. Focus is the first key to your memory. The second key to your memory is a file. You need a place to store the data. You need a place to put the information. Let me give you an example here. Let's imagine that you meet somebody and they say that their name is Brian. That name goes in your ear and on the floor of your memory. Then you memorize Proverbs 3:7. Do not be wise in your own eyes, but fear the Lord and shun evil. That verse goes in your ear and it goes on the floor of your memory. And then you memorize another verse, Psalms chapter 1. Blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor stands in the way of sinners, nor sits in the seat of the scornful, but his delight is in the Lord and in the law of the Lord. And on his law he meditates day and night. He'll be like he'll be like trees planted by streams of water. That goes in your ear. You've just read it, and it goes in the floor of your memory, right? And then you meet somebody named Brian, in your ear, the floor of your memory. You meet Dave, in your ear, the floor of your memory. You meet Christina or Jared, that name goes in your ear and the floor of your memory. 2 weeks later, you're at the grocery store and you see that person. And you're like, oh my gosh, I know that person's name. You can't remember their name. You're looking through the hamsters that run around in your brain. They panic and they're like, oh my gosh, where's that name? I know it's in here somewhere. I know I put it in here somewhere. Or you want, oh, what was that verse in Psalms chapter 1? What was it again? It's in your brain. You can't get it though, because you just memorized it. You memorized the name, you memorized the Bible verse, not by filing it to something. You memorized it by just tossing it on the floor of your brain. And that's not going to work. In memory, whether it's a person's name or whether it's a Bible verse, you have to attach it to a file. I'll share with you what a file is here in a second. The third thing you have to do is you have to turn it into a picture. Whatever you want to remember, it has to be a picture. You have to be able to see it. Number 4, that picture needs to have action and emotion. And number 5, review. I just told you that Jared memorized the first 500 chapters of the Bible. He knows the theme. I could say, what's in Numbers chapter 9, and he could say what it is. I'm not testing him on this meeting here, though, today. And one of the reasons I'm not testing him is I don't know when the last time he's reviewed it. And if he hasn't reviewed it recently, I don't want to put him on the spot. Here's why. Review is crucial to your memory. If you don't review and touch the verses that you've memorized, here's my rule of thumb. I try to ask myself, what did I learn today? So I'll be falling asleep. What are the verses I learned today? And I will review them. If I memorized a verse today, I'll try to review it tomorrow, but if I don't, at the very latest, the next day. And I'll try to review it a couple times that week. And then once or twice a month, I'll try to go back and review what I memorized the month prior. You got to keep touching it to keep it fresh in your brain. So these are the 5 steps to memory. They're the 5 steps to my black belt memory process. Let me give you an example of what some files could be. For the book of Genesis, a file, believe it or not, could be a pair of blue jeans. You're turning the book name into a picture. The file for the book of Exodus could be an axe. The file for Leviticus could be a lever, like a car jack is a lever. The file for the book of Numbers could be a number sign. These are places where you're going to store information. You're seeing a location in your mind, a location here being a number sign. For Deuteronomy, the location could be a duet, 2 people singing a duet. The location for the book of Joshua could be a Joshua tree. Now, if you've been with me a while, you know that there's also a different type of file. And that file is what we call a mind palace, but I'll get to that in a second. The next thing, a judge's gavel, judges, for the book of Judges, the file could be a judge's gavel. For Ruth, the book of Ruth, the file where you're going to store the data could be a Baby Ruth candy bar. In other words, you take what you want to memorize about the book of Ruth and you see it interacting with that candy bar. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. Red lights are going off in some people's brains. Jared might be one of them. Christina might be one of them. Mark Meadows might be one of them. The lights are going off. They're like, wait, Ron, wait a minute. There's over 30 chapters in Genesis. Well, more than that. Maybe there's 40 or 50 chapters in Genesis. I'm going to attach 40 or 50 things to a pair of blue jeans. Yeah, you're absolutely right. You just called my bluff. This is only going to work if you're wanting to remember one or two things from Genesis, one or two things from Exodus, one or two things from Leviticus, because you could attach one or two things to a pair of blue jeans and it worked. However, it's important to learn this, and then you can use a more advanced system of the Mind Palace if you want to memorize 30 things from Genesis. But let's keep going because this actually still works. For First Samuel, I use one mule, First Samuel. Let's test ourselves real quick. Genesis. What did we say was the the file we're going to use for Genesis? Boom, a pair of blue jeans. What did we say the file is we're going to use for Exodus? Exodus. Just look at it. It's right there in the first two letters. Exodus, Acts. What about Leviticus? Leviticus, lever. Numbers, a number sign. Deuteronomy, look at this right there in the first four letters. A duet. It's spelled different than Deuteronomy, but it sounds the same. Joshua, Joshua tree. Judges, Judges gavel. Ruth, Baby Ruth candy bar. First Samuel, one mule. Now, we're halfway there. We're halfway there. Believe it, it's right now we're 16 minutes into this webinar, and in the next 43 minutes, I'm going to have you memorize the location of 5 or 6 Bible stories and at least one verse word for word. I know you think I'm crazy, but just bear with me. I'm teaching you the basics to memory, and then we're about to apply it to Bible memory. So to remember a location of a Bible story, like to know something happened in Exodus chapter 12 or Exodus chapter 20 or Genesis chapter 37, not only do you need a picture for the book, which we just did, blue jeans for Genesis, an Exodus for Acts. Not only do you need a picture for the book, you need a picture for the number of the chapter. There are several ways to create images for numbers. A lot of people know I'm a big fan of the major system, but we do not have time for me to teach you that today. So I'm going to teach you this basic system here. It's the number shape system. We memorize our image for the number 1 is a pencil because it looks like a number 1, the shape there. Our image for number 2 is a duck because the shape of a number 2 is shaped like a duck. I know this seems silly. I know this seems oversimple. This seems like something a 6-year-old would do. But if you can do this, you're going to be able to get some massive, impressive results. 3 is a pyramid because a triangle has 3 sides and each face of a pyramid is a triangle. So 1 is a pencil, 2 is a duck, 3 is a pyramid. 4 is a box because a box has 4 sides, 4 corners. It's pretty simple. 5 is a star, 5-star restaurant, 5-star hotel, 5-star general. Number 6. 6 is an elephant. People always say, Ron, why is 6 an elephant? I just don't get this. Well, here's why 6 is an elephant. Turn a 6 on its side, it kind of looks like an elephant. It's the shape of an elephant. It's difficult to see it right here, but it's easier to see right here. 7 is dice. Opposite sides of dice always equal 7. You see that 1 on the top of the dice right there? That tells you a 6 is on the bottom. That 2 on the side of the dice right there tells you is a 5 is on the other side. 8 is a snowman. 8 is a snowman, the shape of the snowman. 9 is a balloon. You can kind of see the shape of the balloon. Looks like a 9. Some people like a cat because a cat has 9 lives. Other people like baseball because there's 9 innings in a baseball game. Or the Texas Rangers finish 9 games back every year, except 2023 which was the greatest year in the history of the Texas Rangers. We're just going to do 2 or 3 more here, and you get the point. 10, I use a fork and a plate because of the shape. Look at it. 11, the goalposts look like an 11. And 12 is eggs, dozen eggs. Boom, you got it. Let's review real quick, and then let's apply this to Bible memory. Number 1, what was the shape? What did it look like? Ah, it looked like a number one. One is a pencil. Two, what was the shape? What did it look like? Oh yeah, it was a duck because of the shape. Three, what did it look like? What was the shapes there? Oh yeah, it was a pyramid because of the triangles. Four, what had four corners and four sides? You betcha, a box. Five, what was it? It was a five-pointed star, five-star hotel, five-star restaurant, five-star review. Six. Now that six needs to be flipped another way, but if it was, I bet you would know six is an elephant. Seven. Think about the opposite sides, and you got seven as dice. Eight. Eight is a snowman. Nine. What was it? Ah, for you it may have been a cat. For me, it was baseball. Others use a balloon. 10. Fork in a plate. 11. What's the shape there? That is a goalpost. 12. What does that remind us of? A dozen eggs. All right. Now let's memorize some Bible stories. I will say this to Mark Meadows, to Jared, to Christina. This is going to be review for you. We've already done this, but review's not bad. When in the world is review bad? So here's a forced review for all of else of you. This is new to you. Wonderful. We're going to do two types of Bible memory here in the next 39 minutes. We are going to do the first type of Bible memory, which is memorizing the locations of stories. And then we're going to switch to word for word Bible memory. So if you're here because you want to memorize some verses word for word, bear with me, stick with me. Let's do stories first based on the principles that we just learned. Number one, you got to be focused. Number two, you have to have a file. You have to have something to attach it to. Number three, you need to have a picture. Whenever you want to remember, it needs to be a picture. Four, we need to use action and emotion. And five, we need to review. I can't underestimate the importance of review in Bible memory, in any memory. The Garden of Eden. This happened in Genesis chapter 2. Our file for this, our file is going to be blue jeans. We attach to blue jeans the image of ducks because ducks represent two. Genesis chapter 2, boom, the Garden of Eden. Maybe close your eyes for just 10 seconds. If you see the picture on my screen, that's good. But if you can close your eyes and see it in your own mind, that is going to be more active and that is going to force it into your memory more. I always give you pictures on the screen to look at. I believe this is a great way to memorize, but it is better on a scale of 1 to 10. Looking at this image, this is a 6 or 7 of a way to memorize. You're seeing it and it's going to help you. But if you can close your eyes and imagine the same picture, you've taken the effectiveness from a 6 or a 7 to a 10. So now I've taken away the information. What chapter of the Bible is this in? You see the blue jeans, you see the ducks. Genesis chapter 2 is the Garden of Eden. In Genesis chapter 37, we have the story of Joseph and the coat of many colors. Or I don't know if the coat of many colors is in chapter 37, but the story of Joseph is certainly in chapter 37. So the file, what we're going to attach all this to is a pair of blue jeans. You see the blue jeans there? 37. Remember, dice is 7, and there's 3 dice there. So there's 3 sevens. Genesis chapter 37 is the story of Joseph. So the file is the blue jeans. We're attaching all this to the blue jeans to remember Genesis chapter 37. Now I take it away. Look at the picture. Blue jeans, Genesis. 3 dice, 3 sevens. Genesis chapter 37, the story of Joseph. Let's do another one here. What book of the Bible is represented by an axe? Exodus. What do we have there? A dozen eggs for 12. Exodus chapter 12 is the story of Passover. See this picture right here, but maybe close your eyes to it and look away and see the axe for Exodus. That's our file. The eggs and the Passover, we attach all that to the axe to remember it. Exodus chapter 12, the story of Passover. Boom. Look at it again and say to yourself, figure it out. What was it? Exodus chapter 12, Passover. Here is Exodus chapter 20. One of my favorite verses, chapters. I just love the Ten Commandments. I love the story of the Ten Commandments. Um, Exodus chapter 20. Exodus, there's the axe. That's our file. We're attaching this image to that axe. 20. For me, for the number 20, I use fingers and toes because you got 20 fingers and toes. So I have these arrows pointed to his fingers and toes to remember Exodus chapter 20. Exodus chapter 20 is the Ten Commandments. Close your eyes. See Moses with the Ten Commandments. See an axe in that picture. Maybe you even see the axe breaking the Ten Commandments if you want. That's not sacrilegious. Moses broke the Ten Commandments the first time because he was so frustrated, right? Remember that story? So Exodus chapter 20, see the fingers and toes for 20. Boom. Exodus chapter 20 is the Ten Commandments. Let's do some more here. Jubilee, the story of Jubilee. You have for Leviticus a lever. Now, in a minute ago, we used a lever as a car jack, right? A lever was a car jack. This is also a lever, right? This is a lever. So you see a guy pulling a lever. That's the file for Leviticus. It's in chapter 25. I have those quarters in the sky. There's 25 cents. There's quarters falling down. Leviticus chapter 25 is the story of Jubilee, where the debts are forgiven in the year of Jubilee. So, and he's happy. Look at that. His debts are forgiven. So Jubilee, a guy pulling a lever and quarters falling down. Jubilee. Let's review here for a second. Let's review. Let's go back. What book of the Bible was the Garden of Adam and Eden? What story was that? Chapter was that? Genesis chapter 2. What chapter of the Bible was the story of Joseph? Genesis chapter 37. What chapter of the Bible was Passover? What was Passover? Think of the axe, think of the door, think of this picture. Exodus chapter 12 was Passover. What chapter of the Bible is the Ten Commandments? Guys, do you see how this is? Do you see how quickly we've gone here? We've been going like a couple minutes on this, and I've already got you up to Leviticus, 2 stories per book. What was Exodus chapter or when was Passover? Exodus chapter 12. When was the Ten Commandments? What chapter was the Ten Commandments? Boom, Exodus chapter 20. What book of the Bible and chapter was the story of Jubilee? Lever, quarters falling out of the sky. Oh, yeah, that's right. Leviticus chapter 25. Here's another one. Leviticus, there's the lever. All right. In Leviticus chapter 16, for me, the picture for 16 is a car because most places you get your driver's license when you're 16. So we have a lever on a car. Leviticus chapter 16. Leviticus chapter 16 is the Day of Atonement, where you sacrifice a goat, the sacrificial goat, the scapegoat, right? So Leviticus lever, 16 a car, Leviticus chapter 16, the Day of Atonement. And I've got the musical notes there because there's tones. All right, tones for music. The Day of Atonement. Let's do another one here. Here's a great one. Look at this for all you cat lovers. In Numbers chapter 9, 9 for the cat lovers, cat has 9 lives. In Leviticus chapter 9, the Israelites followed a cloud of a cloud, and you have it was what was it? Was it fire at night? Right, a cloud of fire. So Numbers chapter 9, there's the number sign for Numbers chapter 9. The Israelites followed a cloud. Israelites followed a cloud in Numbers chapter 9. Let's review the one. What chapter of Leviticus is the Day of Atonement? What chapter of Leviticus is the Day of Atonement? Okay, so you got to think a few things here. You got the lever for Leviticus. You got the car for 16, Leviticus chapter 16. You remember the goat. and you remember the music. What chapter of Leviticus was the year of Jubilee? Oh yeah, we got that guy and he's pulling a lever. What was flying down out of the sky? Oh yeah, that was quarters, 20, 25, 25 cents. Okay, cool. Let's keep going. What chapter? Let's review. What chapter in Numbers did the Israelites follow a cloud? Oh my gosh, let's see. They're following a cloud. There's a number sign for numbers. It was cats. Cat has 9 lives. Numbers chapter 9. What? Here's the next one. Numbers chapter 20. There's the number sign. There's 20 fingers and toes. Moses gets water from a rock. Look at Moses. He's squeezing that rock and he's getting water from a rock. Numbers chapter 20 is Leviticus getting water from a rock. By the way, for those of you who've been with me in my private Bible memory club, this is all review for you, but review is great. Review is wonderful. Um, Water from a rock. Let's do another one here. Deuteronomy chapter 4. Remember, a box for us is 4 because it has 4 sides. So look at that box there, and see it has 4 sides. Deuteronomy, duet, and avoid idols. Okay, Deuteronomy chapter 4 is telling us, hey, don't have idols. Well, what's on that right there? There's the golden calf. There's a golden idol, right? So Deuteronomy, duet, box 4, Deuteronomy chapter 4 is avoiding idols. What chapter of Numbers did Moses get water from a rock? 20 fingers and toes. That may be difficult for you to remember, but remember in Exodus chapter 20, we saw Moses's fingers and toes for chapter 20, and here we see the same thing for chapter 20. What chapter of Numbers did the Israelites follow a cloud? Number 9. What chapter of Leviticus was the Day of Atonement? Chapter 16. What chapter of Exodus was the 10 Commandments? Remember, this is a difficult one if you don't remember the fingers and toes. Chapter 20. What chapter of Exodus was the Passover? What chapter 12? And what chapter of Genesis was Joseph? Genesis, blue jeans. Joseph, the coat of many colors. What was in the rest of that picture? 3 dice, 3 sevens. Now we're going to jump all the way down back to what we just did. What was Deuteronomy chapter 4 talking about? Deuteronomy, duet, the box 4. Oh yeah, there was an idol on. Don't make any idols. Now here we go. Deuteronomy chapter 6, and we'll stop here, and I'm going to move to word for word memory because I think I proved my point. But look at this: Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. You just memorized the locations of the first 5 chapters of the first 5 books of the Bible: Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. The Torah, that's the Torah. We just took 2 stories from Genesis, 2 from Exodus, 2 from Leviticus, 2 from Numbers, and 2 from Deuteronomy. You just memorized, get this, folks, we just memorized the locations of 10 Bible stories, 10 stories in the Bible in 10 minutes. Really, we did that in 10 minutes. And we reviewed it, and you got it. Boom. Now do you see how it's possible? Now do you see how it's possible? When I said and by the way, when I said Jared memorized the theme of the first 500 chapters of the Bible, this is what I meant. This is what I meant. He did this with the first 500 chapters. You've done it with 10 select chapters. But now do you see how it might have been possible for him to do that? We just did 10. And he did 500. So I'm trying to do the math here. I don't know the percentage, but I do know that is 52%. 2%? Is that 2%? I shouldn't try to do math on a memory seminar. So 1%, I guess that would be 5. Yeah. So 10 would be 2%. We just did 2% of what Jared did, but we did it in 10 minutes. Do you see how this could be possible? Let's finish it up here. Deuteronomy chapter 6. There's the duet. Chapter 6. What's our picture for 6? An elephant. The duet on an elephant. Elephant is 6. Duet, elephant. Deuteronomy chapter 6. There is this prayer that the Jewish people have called the Shema or Shema. Shema, I'm saying Shema, but I think I'm mispronouncing it. and it means that the Lord our God is one. And that's why the number one is right there. And I have the whale there to help us remember the name of the prayer is Shema, because I think of Shamu, Shamu the whale when I think of the Shema. So I see Deuteronomy chapter 6, and I see the whale. So I'm going to stop my screen share here for one moment. I'm going to stop my screen share, and I want to review what we just learned here before we do some word for word Bible memory. I do see some Q&A going on here. Great. Um, so let's do some review here. To remember anything, whether it's a name or whatever, you need five key ingredients. You need to be focused. That's good nutrition and exercise. That's spinach and blueberry and omega-3, staying healthy. You need to be focused. Number two, you need a file, a place to store the information. In Bible memory, that can be Genesis is a pair of blue jeans. We take whatever we want to remember about Genesis and we imagine it interacting with the blue jeans. Now, this method has some limitations. Right now, we're only doing two stories per book, Genesis chapter 2 and Genesis chapter 37. It works if you're only doing two stories per book. Ron, what if you want to do more than two stories per book? Aha, I'm glad you asked. I'm about to cover that in 2 minutes. But you need to be focused. You need to have a file. Whatever you want to remember, it has to be a picture. You have to be able to see it. You have to have these pictures full of action and emotion, and then you got to review. Did you notice the thought process we were doing there? We were memorizing verses, and then after we had one memorized, we always went back and review. You always have to review. Let's review one last time before we go to the next method of memory, which is word for word Bible memory, where we have to get a little bit more advanced. Let's review. Genesis, the Garden of Eden. What chapter do we find Garden of Eden in? Think of the blue jeans, think of the picture, and think what was all around them. Ducks. What chapter in Genesis was the story of Joseph? Think of the blue jeans. Joseph, the coat of many colors. What was in that picture? Three dice, three sevens. Perfect. Exodus. What was the story of Passover? What chapter can we find that in? Okay, you got the X and you got the Passover, the blood on the door. What else was in that picture? 12, a dozen eggs. Exodus chapter 12. What story where can we find the Ten Commandments? Oh, we can remember this, the image of Moses. He's holding the Ten Commandments there. And we can see the axe for Exodus, fingers and toes, Exodus chapter 20, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus. What was Leviticus the day? What chapter is the Day of Atonement? What was that? Oh, we got the goat, the scapegoat for the Day of Atonement, and the music all around him, and the lever there. What was the lever on? Oh, it was on a car. You get your driver's license when you're 16. Leviticus chapter 16 is the Day of Atonement. All right. What chapter in Leviticus talks about the year of Jubilee? Oh, the guy pulling the lever and he was happy, Jubilee, and falling out of the sky was quarters. Leviticus chapter 25. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers. Numbers. What chapter of Numbers did the Israelites follow a cloud? Where can we find that story? Oh, I remember that. I remember that picture, and it was all cats in the picture because cat has 9 lives. Numbers chapter 9. Where in Numbers can we find Moses getting water from a rock? The number sign for Numbers. Oh yeah, his fingers and toes. We were focused on that. 20. Numbers chapter 20. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. Oh, Deuteronomy. Where can we find you should not have idols? What chapter of Deuteronomy does it say not to have idols? Oh, I remember that. There was the duet, and they were next to an idol, a golden idol, and they were on a box. A box has four sides. Deuteronomy chapter 4. And some of you are probably going a lot faster than I am, but I want everybody to follow along. Ah, Deuteronomy, where can we find the Shema? Shema, Shamu, the whale. Ah, the Lord is one. What chapter of Deuteronomy? Duet. Oh, yeah, they were on a elephant. Elephant, Deuteronomy chapter 6. Guys, right? We just memorized the locations of 10 Bible stories. For you who are in my private Bible memory group, this is all Old news for you. You've already done it, but review is good. Now, the next type of Bible memory, the little bit more advanced type is what if you want to remember 30 things from the book of Genesis? Well, you're probably not going to just be able to imagine blue jeans out in the middle of nowhere in your mind and attach everything to that because it's too much. So you're going to need to use a different method known as the memory palace or the mind palace. And if you've been with me a while, you know what the memory palace or the mind palace is. If you're in, if you, please forgive my explanation of it again, but I need to catch everybody else up who has no idea what it is. The memory palace or the mind palace was developed as the story goes, and I don't know if this story is true or not, but it's on the internet, so it must be true. And I say that as a joke, and I've been saying that as a joke for 25 years now, ever since the internet popped up. More than that, 35 years now. Uh, 1995, whatever. Who cares? Move on, Ron. You're in a Bible memory training here, not trying to debate when the internet started. I've been saying this as a joke for a long time, but a couple years ago, I read a book or some writings by Cicero, the guy who lived 2,000 years ago. The story I'm about to tell you, Cicero wrote about 2,000 years ago. So I don't know if this story is true or not, but if it's a fake story, at least it's a 2,000-year-old fake story, okay? Because Cicero wrote about it. Here's what Cicero said. He said 500 years before he lived, in 477 BC, there was a man named Simonides, and Simonides lived in Greece. And Simonides was a poet, and he went into this banquet and he recites a poem from not from I don't know if it was from memory or not. I don't think it was. Who knows? That part of the story is left out. He recites a poem for a bunch of really rich people in this banquet. His part is over. He recites the poem, so he leaves. Well, leaving saved his life because after he left, the roof collapsed and killed everybody in the room. They pulled the rocks off the people, and they couldn't recognize him anymore. They were crushed so bad. But they knew Simonides had been in the room. So they said, Simonides, can you tell us who was sitting where so we can identify the bodies? And Simonides, yeah, said, sure. Frank was sitting there. Steve was there. Lisa was there. Probably different names. Karen was there. Wendy was there. Christina was there. David was there. AJ was there. Ellen was there. Jean was there. Glenn was there. I'm looking at the group, the names of the people in our meeting here. John was there. Mary Hickman was there. Michael was over here. He remembered them based on where they were sitting. And when he did that, the light bulb went off in his head. Wait a minute. I just remembered people based on where they're sitting. What if I can apply this to anything? What if I could number locations in a room and then take a list of 10 things I want to memorize and see it in that room? For example, let's say I numbered spots in this room. Let's say I said number one is my image of a woman wearing a hat right here, right here, image of a woman wearing a hat. And I said two is my camel. Three, and by the way, don't do this. When you're creating, this is called a mind palace. When you're creating your mind palace, don't pick stuff that small, or it could be that small. It could be that size. That's decent size. But don't pick them all on the same desk or all on the same wall like that. These are too small. Ideally, you want to do five in a room and you want to spread it out around the room. But I'm just doing this because you can see it. So one is the woman, two is a camel, three is Einstein, four is the fan, and five is this car over here. But that's not really how you want to do it. Matter of fact, let's just do this together. I want everybody to imagine the room that you're in right now, the room that you're in. I want you to look at the door, look at the doorway of this room, of the room that you're in. Imagine you're standing in that doorway. Look to your immediate left, and whatever the first big piece of furniture is over there, look at the door. Whatever the first big piece of furniture is, say that's number one. And by the way, for all y'all who already know the Mind Palace, bear with me for a second. I'm just catching everybody else up to speed, and then we're going to start memorizing some Bible verses. Look at the door. Look to the right, to the left of the door. What's your first big piece of furniture? Whatever it is, that's going to be number one. Desk, a bed, a TV, a refrigerator, a stove, a microwave, a table. Go around the room clockwise now and pick big items, not small items, and number five locations. One, two, three, four, five. One, two, three, four, five. So I'm going to tell you mine in this room. One is a dresser, two is a lamp, three is a cabinet, four is a TV, and five is a couch. That's mine. That's not yours. You do 5 in your room. Just take a moment here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is your mind palace. Now let's go back and apply this to Bible memory. I'm going to take some of my favorite verses and I'm going to show you how to memorize these word for word using your mind palace. These are going to become our files. I'm trying to pick one here. Here's one that I love. Here's one that I love. Here's the verse. Cast all your anxiety on him because he cares for you. When you want to memorize something word for word, you have to use the mind palace. You don't have to, I guess, but it's really going to help. It's really going to help. I want you to look over there. First of all, look at this picture. Let's look at the picture and let's understand this. Cast all your anxiety on him because he cares for you. Cast, a fisherman casting. He's fishing. Cast all your anxiety. Look at his face. He has anxiety. Cast all your anxiety on him. And there is Jesus. Cast all your anxiety on him. Bumblebees, see the bees right there? Because he cares for you. He cares for you. And he's holding your shoulders there to show that he cares for you. Um, I'm trying to think, why is there a picture of a cell phone in this image? That could be a cast all. Oh, I know why. I know why. Cast all. Maybe you want to remember the word all. I know why. I did a webinar before and people were skipping the word all. They were just saying, cast your anxieties on him. And I'm like, no, it's all. You got to say all. So we thought, he's fishing and he catches a phone, a call. Cast all your anxiety on him, bumblebees, because he cares for you. And this is in 1 Peter 5:7. So look at this picture. I'm about to take it away. Look at this picture. A guy fishing, cast. He's catching a phone call. Cast all. He has anxiety. Cast all your anxiety on him. There's Jesus. He's got the bumblebees because he cares for you. Now I'm going to take this image away here for a second. Cast all your anxiety on him because he cares for you. We've got a picture for that now, right? We've got a picture in our brain for that. But we have to store it in a file. We have to put it somewhere where we can retrieve it later. In this case, the file will be the Mind Palace. So I want you to look over there to your number one file. Remember, we just numbered 5 locations around the room. I want you to look over there on that piece of furniture, and I want you to see somebody fishing, and they are catching a phone call. Cast all. See the file. I'm seeing the dresser over here. I'm seeing the picture, but I'm saying the words. It is so important for your mind to hear you saying the words. It gets it in your natural memory. I'm seeing the fisher and I'm seeing the guy casting and he's catching a phone. Cast all. Look at his face. He's anxious. Now I go back to the beginning and I say it from the start. Cast all your anxiety on him. There's Jesus in the picture too. I'm really imagining this and I'm really seeing it over there. Now I go back and I say the verse from the beginning. Cast all, he's anxious, your anxiety. There's Jesus on him because bumblebees are swarming all around that picture. Cast all your anxiety on him because Jesus is hugging him. He cares for you. Now I see the whole image and I say it to myself. Cast all. Look at the anxiety on his face. Cast all your anxiety on him. Bumblebees swarming around because he cares for you. Ah, I'll close my eyes. I'll see the image, but I'll say the words. It's so important to say the words. It's so important to lock it into your memory by letting your mind hear you say it. Cast all your anxiety on him because he cares for you. Now, let's say we want to add something to this. We want to kind of take this to the next level here. You find this in 1 Peter 5:7. For Peter, I think of Peter Rabbit. And since it's 1 Peter, I see 1 Peter the Rabbit. And for 5'7", I see a 57 Chevy. My picture for 57 or 5'7" is 57 Chevy. One Peter the Rabbit in a 57 Chevy. One Peter 5'7". One Peter 5'7" is cast all your cares on him because he cares for you. So, how do you tie the chapter and the verse into that? This is how you do it. Look back over there at your first at that piece of furniture. Don't don't mess with the front what you got going on. Don't mess with the bumblebee and all. Leave all of that alone. We have two options here. Option one, look at the ground down at the foot of that piece of furniture. So I'm looking at the ground in front of the dresser. I'm going to imagine one rabbit in a 57 Chevy driving all around it. Maybe he crashes into it. In other words, I'm putting this story at the bottom of that file, at the bottom of the piece of furniture. I'm not messing with what's going on up there because it would just get too cluttered. That's option one, and that's personally how I like to do it. I like to just add it on the floor at the piece of furniture. Option two is you have five pieces of furniture numbered in this room. Option two would be on the next piece of furniture over. Imagine the one rabbit driving a 57 Chevy on that piece of furniture. The reason I personally don't like to do it that way is let's say you want to memorize 20 verses. Well, you're going to need 40 pieces of furniture, right? Because one is the verse, one is the location. I like combining them. Here's the general rule when it comes to memory. You want to put as much information as you can on a file, but not too much. Okay. So, as much as you can, but not too much. And I am convinced that by putting the chapter and the verse at the floor in front of it, that's not too much because it's in a different location on the furniture. However, let's say you're memorizing a verse in the Bible that's pretty long, more than just a short little phrase. Sometimes you have to use two pieces of furniture to memorize one verse. This one was kind of short, so we could put it all there. But I always try to get it on one, but I can't always do that. Let's do one more here real quick. We got a little bit of time left. I'm going to try to be respectful of your time and be done here in about 10 minutes. Um, Here's one. I love this one. Be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer. Romans 12:12. Be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, prayer, faithful in prayer. So here's our picture. Bee, bumblebee, joyful. The bee's happy. Be joyful. That's a joyful bee. Be joyful in hope. See the dotted line there? That's to symbolize that he's hopping. Be joyful in hop. Be joyful in hope. Hospital patient who is afflicted, patient in affliction. And that, guys, that cartoon image of the water over there, that's supposed to be a geyser. That geyser is supposed to represent the geyser Old Faithful. Y'all have heard of the geyser Old Faithful? Faithful in prayer. Look at that image again and say the verse. Bumblebee, he's joyful and he's hopping. Be joyful in hope. A patient who's afflicted, patient in affliction. There's a geyser there, faithful in prayer. Be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer. Now, let's take away the screen here so you're not looking at it. Remember, you want to see it in your mind. On the first piece of furniture over there, we got 1 Peter 5:7. Move over to the next piece of furniture, your number two file, and imagine that picture. Imagine a bumblebee and it's hopping. All right. Mine is a window. That's my number two. Whatever yours is different. I see a bumblebee hopping through the window and he's joyful. Be joyful and hope. There's a hospital patient right there and he lands on him. Be joyful in hope, patient in affliction. Ah, now a geyser shoots up water and it covers everything. Faithful, and it covers everything, including the guy who's praying. Faithful in prayer. Now I see all of it together and I see be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer. Ah, I got it. I'm going to see it all and you see it all too. See it in your imagination and say it. Be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, and faithful in prayer. Ah, let's go back and look at number one just for the fun of it. Cast all your anxiety, there's Jesus, on him, the bumblebees, because He cares for you. Look at the bottom of the floor. First Peter, 57 Chevy, 5:7. Let's go back to the one we just did. Be joyful. He's bumblebee jumping. He's hopping. Be joyful in hope. Patient, a hospital patient, patient in affliction. Geyser, old faithful, faithful in prayer. Be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer. Now, what section of the Bible can we find this in? What book and chapter? I'm sorry. We can find this in Romans 12:12. A Roman soldier and 12 eggs in one hand and a 12 in another. Romans 12:12. Romans two eggs in each hand. Romans 12:12. See that picture and place that picture on the floor at the bottom of that piece of furniture. So you've got at the bottom of your number two for the Be Joyful and Hope, a Roman soldier, Romans 12:12. Guys, this is how you memorize. This is how you learn. You can memorize so much Bible verses this year. We just did two verses in 10 minutes. We just memorized two verses. 1 Peter 5:7, Romans 12:12. You just memorized them word for word. Yeah, sure. You're probably going to have to think about it for the rest of the day. Tonight, when you're going to sleep, instead of counting sheep or take a NyQuil to knock yourself out. And I'm not throwing any stones when I say that because that's what the memory guy has been known to do on more than a frequent occasion. But instead of that, try this. Lay in bed and just review. Don't count sheep, review. Cast all your cares on him because he cares for you. 1 Peter 5:7. Move to the next one. Be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer. The bottom of the piece of furniture, a Roman soldier with eggs, Romans 12:12. Then go back and review the locations of Bible stories. Exodus chapter 20, the Ten Commandments. Um, uh, what was in what chapter can we find the story of the Israelites falling the cloud? Oh, that was in 9 because of the cats. Review is crucial to your memory, guys. Remember, focus, file, picture, action, review. There's two types of Bible memory. One is stories and one is word for word. We covered them both. I mentioned to you that Jared and Christina and Mark Meadows are in a private group that I have. I have a private Bible memory group. I'll put it down below. For those of you watching this on YouTube, I'll put it in the description. I'm going to see if the chat is disabled. So I'm going to open up the Q&A box here for us watching on Zoom. And I don't believe I can. Uh, I, I'm going to see if I can send a message to everyone. Did everyone just get that link there? If you just got a link in a chat, I have a Bible memory group. And for those of you watching this on YouTube, I will pin it in the description down below. But I have a Bible memory club and it's $19 a month. And what we did today, and remember I mentioned my private Bible memory group. What we did today is what we do every week. We memorize the locations of two Bible stories a week, and we memorize a verse word for word. Now, we don't all jump on a live call once a week, but we do at least once a month, and we're going to start doing it more frequently. We're going to start doing it during the week and on a Saturday. We're doing it more frequently than they are now, but the minimum is once a month, but we're going to do it more where we can see each other's faces and encourage each other. Right now, you just got my face, but it's $19 a month, and several of the people in here are uh, are in that. We got the link in the chat. Great. So thank you, Mark. So if you go to the chat and you click on the chat, you can see that I have a $19 a month program. And it's just every week I will send you two Bible stories and we memorize the location of them. And then we'll memorize a verse word for word together. Um, I believe that it's a great group for you to join if you want to join it. By the way, I'm going to say this. I mentioned earlier that Jared has memorized the first 500 chapters of the Bible. He did that because he has my Bible memory program, the 1189 Bible memory program. When you join this $19 a month club, you get access to that course where you can also memorize what's in all 1,189 chapters of the Bible. That's how many there is. So Jared's 50% of the way. So you'll get access to the 1189 Bible memory program. It's included in the $19 a month. Plus, you will get access to my Road to Bible Memory course, which is another Bible memory course. You'll get access to my Sermon on the Mount Bible memory course, where you memorize the Sermon on the Mount word for word. Believe it or not, it's possible, and it's in there. So, um, Sermon on the Mount Bible memory, 1189 Bible memory, and the Road to Bible Memory. All courses you get, you're going to get a community group, but it's $19 a month. I would love for you to join us. Just check it out for a month. It's 19 bucks a month. Check it out. And for everybody else, I enjoyed having y'all on here so much. For those of you who are in the private group, and I'm talking to Mark Meadows and Christina and Jared, and if there's more on here, I'm just not seeing it, and I apologize. For those of you who are already in my private group, I'm going to schedule another meeting soon where I can see all of your faces. I'm going to do one next week on the major system, on turning numbers into pictures. It's just all going to be on the major system because that's so helpful in what we're doing. And we've run into that obstacle a couple times where you needed a picture for a number and it wasn't working. So next week, during the week, I'm going to do a class on the major system. That's just for my private group. And then we're also going to have another weekly study session together, and I'll announce that in an email tomorrow. And I'll be able to see all your faces on Zoom, and we'll be able to encourage each other. This was just open to the public, so we had to do it this way. But if anybody has any questions, you can ask in the Q&A, and I'll answer them live. Also, how to schedule reviews, when to review. Oh, how do you there's no magic answer on reviews. There's no magic answer. I can't say you got to review after 24 hours, after 48, and after 100 hours. That's just not the case. You just have to review until you got it. But here's my general rule of thumb. Before I memorize something new, I review what I learned before. So if I memorized a verse today and tomorrow I want to memorize a verse, before I work on the new thing, I review the old. That's number one. Number two, I always try to ask myself, what did I learn today? And then in the next day, preferably in the morning after I've slept, what did I review yesterday? So that night and in the morning, try to do that. After that, man, I say, man, your name is iPhone 4, so I don't know if that's a lady or a man. I apologize, but after that, that's really just going to depend on how well you know it. Once you know something really well, you can review it less frequently. So it just depends on how long it takes to get it in your natural memory. But review that night, review the next day, and then maybe in 3 days, maybe in a week, and then maybe in a week you review everything you learned last week, and then maybe at the end of the month you review everything you learned in the month. You're going to have to figure out a schedule that works for you on that. But a general rule of thumb, before you memorize new information, review what you learned before. And at the end of the day and in the morning of after learning something, try to do that. iPhone 4 also asks us, what about memorizing massive amounts of info? How do we create new loci when we run out of locations? You're never going to run out of locations. You're never going to run out of locations. People ask me that all the time. Jared memorized 500 verses. He used 500 locations. I memorized the Afghanistan memory wall. That's the names of 2,400 people. I use 2,400 locations. Use your house, your friend's house, your cousin's house, your best friend's house, your mom's house, your favorite restaurant, a baseball, football, soccer stadium that you know well. You can pick 30, 40, 50 locations just in a soccer stadium. Go for a walk at the park in your neighborhood. Go for a walk, and the tree's number one, the path is number two, the pond is number three, the bench is number four, the trash can is number five. You can pick 20 locations in a park. You are not going to run out of locations. You'll run out of locations in your house, but you're not going to run out of locations that you know. I have probably 3,000 locations numbered, and I'm used in areas of the town that I know and friends' houses and office buildings. You're not going to run out of locations. Great question, though. But what is the title of Cicero's book? Isolino asked. Um, there are some writings called ad Herennium. The AD Herennium, Her. I don't know how to spell Herenium. Ad Herenium. You'll figure, type in Cicero ad Herenium, and you'll find the writings on Amazon for probably $8. You can probably get the book. Now, I will say this: there is some debate if Cicero actually wrote ad Herenium or if it was by another author and they assigned it to Cicero. We don't know, but that's where I read the information. Russell from Montana, great to see you. Well, guys, that's it. I want to respect your time today. If you're watching this on YouTube, in the description is the link to my memory course or the Bible Memory Club. And if you are watching here in this Zoom meeting, click the link in the chat and sign up. And I look forward to seeing you soon. And for those of you who are already in my private group, we are going to do another session next week and much more frequently where I can see all your faces. If anybody, see you soon, Mark. If anybody has any final thoughts, just put it in the chat and I'll see if I can answer it before I log off. But if not, I will log off soon. All right, I just want to say AJ Bates, Brian Benson, Christina, David, Herman, iPhone 4, Esselino, Jared, John, Mary, Michael, Russell Kingman, Sean Bull, Tony Peoples. Oh, there's Tony. Hey, Tony, great to see you there. Tony and I emailed just last week. Trevor and William. Thanks, guys. I hope to answer more of your questions. Cast all your cares on him because he cares for you. 1 Peter 5:7. Be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, and faithful in prayer. Romans 12:12. And until next time, adios, amigos.